again, and welcome back to our Spooky Scary Saturdays. As always, you are here with Kristen. I do beauty-related videos as well as some spooky scary videos as well. Movie reviews, get ready with me, things like that. The movie that we jumped into this week was Sinister, probably the newest movie that you will see on my sort of countdown to Halloween. If you were new here, welcome. Go ahead, hit that subscribe, like button, leave a comment if you feel like, and make sure you definitely turn on that bell icon to be notified when I upload new videos. I will be uploading a new video each Saturday heading up to Halloween. So let's go ahead and roll into the video. All right, and jumping on into Sinister. Also, really quick before I do that, I do apologize a little bit in advance for sort of the bath bomb spam that is about to go on here in the video. Long story short, I had an order from Etsy that, of course, with the mail and everything going on in the world right now, was delayed a little bit longer than I was expecting, so I had to kind of improvise, but also like at last minute order a bath bomb off Amazon. And long story short, yeah, that's why I'm spamming all of this, because my box finally came and I just wanted to use as much of my bath bombs as possible, because if you are paying attention, I'm trying to coordinate my bath bombs as much as possible with the movie for the week. So anyway, that is why we've got a lot of bath bomb spam going on right now. So anyway, continuing. Coming out in 2012, Sinister was actually kind of inspired by a nightmare that one of the co-writers had after watching The Ring back in 2002. For anyone who is not 100% familiar with the plot of Sinister, a basic rundown of it: Ethan Hawke is the star of the movie. He is a true crime writer with a wife and 2 children, a son and a daughter, and he's in a slump. He hasn't had a bestseller in more than 10 years. And I mean, he had a really good bestseller. I mean, you would probably, I want to say, he got probably as famous that you would see him on TV. His book was really well known. He signs autographs. Like, he was a well-known writer, author of true crime, but is also not really well liked because of that, because in his big selling book Kentucky Blood, they never really goes too much into what that book is about, but you're led to believe that there was a crime that he wrote about, I guess an unsolved crime, and he speculated who did it, and police and investigators don't really like it because, or at least some don't, because it's insinuating that he's doing their job for them or better than they could. And I mean, he even says that, like, he has kind of a run-in with this police officer that he meets. So basically, they move into a brand new house where, well, not brand new, they move into a new home where a horrific murder just took place. I mean, a family was hung in their backyard, and the youngest daughter was missing, and he is trying to figure out, who did it and where's the little girl. So, what better idea than just moving into the victim's house.
New details today in the grisly murders of a local family found earlier this week.
I didn't want to move here.
We couldn't afford to live in the old house anymore. Plus, the new story I'm writing is here.
Of course, being so desperate for a new hit, but also moving into a place where this horrific, group murder just happened, he discovers the existence of a snuff film showing deaths of the family, and he vows to himself to kind of use those films, I guess, as a way of solving the mystery. Eventually, the old film footage and other clues hint at presence, and a supernatural presence being in that actual house. And, it does potentially, I mean, it ends up being fatal for them. Sorry, spoiler alert for anyone who has not seen this film, even though you should know I'm going to be talking about what happens at the end of this. This ultimately leads to demise by the end of it. Once they figure out what's going on, there's sort of some, you could say, satanic, witchcraft, religious. There's just sort of that vibe going on. And he looks into it, figures out what is happening. There's a pattern between all of these murders, and typically the pattern goes, the family that moves into the victim's house once they have died, once they move into that house, I guess that's when all of this, like, spooky, haunted, sort of paranormal activity sort of happens. Not because you're going to die in the house. It just, they want you to leave the house because you're going to die when you move to either a new home, or in their case, move back to the old house you were living at before. And that is when Bagul, who is this sort of evil entity that sort of like harvests or gets his power, so to speak, from like eating or kind of taking the souls, that energy from children. And in this case is the younger children of each of these families. That's why all of them are missing, because, and by the end of it, he is sort of possessing the younger children to kill their family. So he's not really doing anything. He is just like a ghost, like a spirit, an evil entity that is taking over, manipulating, brainwashing, and possessing these small children to then murder their entire family once they've moved into a new place. So that is kind of how that movie goes, and I really love it just because, I mean, it does go so bold as to do that. I mean, you think everyone's going to be fine, and then, no, just kidding. Everyone is dead, like, horribly, from the younger one. It's his daughter. She kills all of them. It's great. I love it. She paints all over the walls, blood everywhere. It's amazing. So that's what you know about Sinister, but here are a few things that you may or may not have known. Apparently, so there's a scene where you see, it's basically a cheap jump scare, to be honest with you, but it's a part where Ethan Hawke is walking around the house because, you know, it's creepy, it's spooky, paranormal, whatever, and he goes into a room with a box, like, you know, they just moved in, packing box. So all of a sudden it opens and something comes out and like kind of bends backwards, making this terrible like shrieking noise. And then you see, oh wait, that's his son. His son apparently has these like horrible night terrors that, I mean, they're beyond night terrors, to be honest, but apparently that's like a thing and all of this. Well, apparently that really did happen to the director of this movie in his real life. So Bagul, the so-called eater of children in this story, is not necessarily a real god, but he is definitely based off of one that apparently is in the Bible, it says. And even on Sinister's official Facebook page, they have made big comparisons and connections between the real, what the god is based off of, what Bagul is based off of, and that there's a lot of demonic attributes that they pulled from this sort of eater of the children and vessel character. One that kind of bums me out, one particularly 8-minute long morbid family death scene didn't make the cut. The director says the footage was of a family at Christmas and it was out in the woods, freezing cold, and the scene was cut for financial reasons, and both directors say that they're okay with that. The thing that they created was grimmer and a bit more dark and grisly than it was frightening. And it was a little out of step with everything else. And they think that ultimately it was good for the cut and better for the movie because it just wasn't that dark. Even though, I mean, it's still a very dark film, which is why I love Sinister. I normally do not like modern horror, especially now. Like, not a big fan of Midsommar. Haven't seen Hereditary yet, but films to me that have too much of that plot going on to it, it's just, I'm not for it. I am a slasher fan, I am a gruesome fan, I'm a blood fan, like vampires, all that sort of stuff is what I'm here for. So the more complicated and the more of a plot you have, not the more of a plot you have, it just depends on your plot. If that is all that's driving your film, or you're trying to make a point, or there needs to be like a metaphor here, I'm not here for it. Like, that's not for me. Not to say that there's anything wrong with people that like those sort of movies. It's just, it's not what I'm into. So that was my fun fact, opinion piece, what have you, on the movie Sinister and why I love it so much. Go ahead, check out some of my other videos, and stay tuned for next week for another spooky, scary Saturday.